In the last period of the Ottoman Empire, the heart of Istanbul was beating on Beyoğlu around. Istanbul was slowly growing out of the historical center by suburban trains. With the proclamation of the Republic in 1923, the journey to urbanization, which brought Istanbul to the present, was beginning. In 1929 there was an economic crisis in the world. While the public factories were rapidly spreading across the country, the rail network was expanded. Despite the limited opportunities, Istanbul's public transport network was being developed. In these years, Istanbul got city planned by a French. In this plan, boulevards and highways built on the historic city square were built. After 1950, the interest of the state to Istanbul continues. Between 1950 and 1960, it was the period when Prime Minister Adnan Menderes, with state facilities, dominated the fate of Istanbul alone. Menderes, who was the prime minister in 1950, almost completely abandoned Ankara, and 100 years after Haussmann took Paris, he focused his interest and curiosity on the reconstruction of Istanbul. There was rapid destruction of roads and new roads all over Istanbul. Vatan and Millet streets in Aksaray, Barbaros Boulevard in Beşiktaş, Bizit Square, Karaköy Square, and many others seemed to be a complete ruin. No road or environmental value was wary of these buildings when opening these roads, with or without architectural value. The bulldozer and cylinder crushed ownership, history, architecture, the environment, everything. Cheap labor migration to Istanbul took place with the influence of the Democratic Party period, land reform and industrialization. This led to a huge slum population around the factories opening to the E5 with the opening of Bosporus Bridge in 1973. After the Bosphorus Bridge opened in 1973, the number of Istanbul vehicles increased by 5 times. In addition, the city center was stepping north of Istanbul. With the opening of the second bridge, Istanbul continued to grow to the north. However, the green areas were destroyed and replaced by sites with rich population, shopping centers, and building blocks. Jane Jacobs was an urbanist and activist whose writings championed a fresh, community-based approach to city building. Her treatise, The Death and Life of Great American Cities, introduced groundbreaking ideas about how cities function, evolve and fail. Jacobs saw cities as integrated systems that had their own logic and dynamism which would change over time according to how they were used. She wrote about sidewalks, parks, retail design. She invigorating neighborhood activism by helping stop the expansion of expressways and roads. Blocks. What if we change the timeline and we make Adnan Menderes and Jane Jacobs as a sweet couple? Instead of having a coffee and spending days doing relationship stuff, they would work on an urban project, for the sake of Istanbul. In the end, Istanbul could be a place where people can take advantage on its own Bosporus. The city would never be ruined.